Welcome to the Midsters Podcast, your podcast for inspiration on being bold and saying yes to making the most of your midlife.
Well, we're excited today. We have a guest, Sue Willoughby. Sue, thank you for joining us. I've been following you.
My pleasure.
Thanks. I've been following you on social media, and I mean, you're fascinating. I mean, talking about pivots in midlife and to the level that you've done it and the direction that you've done it, I find very interesting. So I'm going to open it up and allow you just to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got to be basically doing what you're doing now, which is more than one thing.
It's always more than one thing with me. I don't know if it's undiagnosed ADHD or just, I'm just curious. I'm like beyond curious most of the time. And I think I always have been. And you talked about my pivots and, it's interesting, but all of my pivots have sort of been like little footsteps on this crazy path that has been my life. And they all kind of connect somehow, which is fascinating. But, one thing leads to another. And I think when we open ourselves up for those possibilities, but I'm an only child. So I think that probably helps with my curiosity and my just let's do something and let's entertain ourselves because I was really good at that as a kid. Horses have always been a thread in my life. I always wanted one when I was little. I remember going on a trail ride when I was, I was little. I was probably maybe 5-ish. I don't know, however old you are when you're riding this tiny little pony. The pony, of course, had a mind of its own and wanted to go back to the barn. And it did with me on it for most of the way until I fell off. Of course, my mother was mortified and I was elated. Like, let's do that again. That was the most fun thing in the world. So they've always been just a thread in my life. And I didn't realize how supportive and how much they were helping me emotionally when I was younger until I got older. And I started to put those pieces together. My mom was an alcoholic. My parents split when I was young, so I lived with her. And it was challenging. I never really knew what to expect. And, I was the adult often. And at a young age, it's not easy. And you kind of just, not a lot of adult supervision, but you kind of figure things out, right? However, you just do them. So I think that's kind of where I got my independent streak and I'm just going to do this thing because, what's the worst that can happen, I guess. So that sort of, was how I managed to survive when I was younger. And my mom was great, but she definitely had her own stuff. And like you said, I was just independent. I had to be independent. But the barn was my sanctuary. And I grew up in upstate New York. And y'all are from where'd that come from?
Texas?
Y'all, you all are from the New England area as well. So from snow in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Well, I would make my mom drive me to the barn and the dead of winter with, feet of snow. And I would just stay there all day because it made me feel good. It made me happy. I just loved the smell of the place. I loved listening to them eat and just be around them and, just snuggle with the horses and everything.
Well, I did read on your website, and I mentioned this to you,
Yeah.
and I love that you actually say when you have a relationship with a horse or you own a horse or you're around horses, that you actually become part of their herd. Did you find a sense of belonging there that helped you in your home environment and just life in general? Was it the emotional connection?
At the time, I had no idea what it was. It just felt good, like in my heart. It was a heart connection for sure. We would just get on any horse and just ride into the woods and just have fun. And it just felt so natural. And I watched their behaviors. I watched how they interact with each other. I I just wanted to be around them because I knew it felt good and it felt safe. And yes, when you are around horses, even if it's you and one other horse, because they're herd animals, you are part of their herd.
Let me ask you this, because in the life coaching, you have equine therapy, but you also actually are a life coach for women 40 and older. Do those two things blend, or are they separate? I mean, I'm just curious, are they two separate things for you?
No, they blend. So at the base, my base coaching is centered around equine assisted coaching. And the thing is, when I'm coaching online or when I'm coaching outside of the arena without a horse, I do bring a lot of that equine sensitivity, equine intuition with me because I've been around horses so long. So it's still part of the methodology and the way that I coach is I tend to bring horse sense to my coaching, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Can you explain a little more? Because like when I hear equine coaching, my mind immediately goes to like therapeutic training for people
Riding.
with disabilities. Exactly.
Yep.
That's not what you're doing, correct?
No.
Can you explain a little bit what the equine therapy is in the context in which you're using it?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. And there is a difference there. There is equine therapy where there is a licensed therapist that will work with a person who is the equine specialist along with the client and the horse. So there's that kind of an interaction, and that is a licensed therapist. There's also therapeutic riding and those types of skills that help people with a variety of disabilities. I have volunteered at a number of therapeutic riding facilities, and that involves being on the horse and allowing like the connection with the horse as well as the movement of the horse to help people with physical, emotional, and whatever other disabilities. What I do is coaching, and coaching is not therapy. The difference between coaching and therapy is I help guide my clients to understand that they already have the answers. I just help them uncover them and find them. And I do that with horses, and all of the activities that we have with horses are on the ground. So there's no riding experience. It's unmounted, and the horses are also at liberty, meaning that the horse is free to roam around. Typically, unless the person is doing an exercise that involves leading the horse, perhaps to maybe as a confidence builder, they don't feel comfortable having the horse free. Otherwise, the horse has no halter, no lead rope, and the horse is just moving around in the space that they're working and free to be a horse, which is where the magic kind of happens.
So let me ask you, that's interesting you're talking about that. And I know a lot of people that parent, the best place, one of the greatest places to actually talk to your children is in the car. So it's not quite eyesight. There's something else going on. There's some movement. So when you're talking about equine therapy in women in midlife, that other element of having a horse, is that part of the magic that allows women to actually start talking about why, the reason that they are actually there?
Yes, that is a great point. And you're absolutely correct. It does help to have sort of not really a buffer, but something else for them to focus on. So, for example, when a client is working with the horse, I've already done a safety demo. I've, shown them how they can interact, various ways that they can interact with the horse to give them something to think about and to do. And the doing helps to get them out of their head, and they're not just talking, right? Because talk coaching, talk therapy, people can talk a blue streak and tell the therapist whatever they want. Now, obviously a skilled coach or therapist can, kind of go, I'm going to call BS on that. But when you're working with a 1,200-pound animal, that kind of takes the BS out of things, because the horse is going to mirror. For one, they may do that. They're also going to pick up on all of your physical sensations. So your biorhythms, your heartbeat, your breath, your breathing, your everything. So if you are trying to present one way and like, I'm not scared, I'm, whatever, the horse is going to be like, well, that's not exactly the message that I'm getting. So they can pick up on the incongruence between the exterior and the interior. And to your question or your point, when somebody is given a task, right, they're focusing on the task and they're focusing on trying to get the horse to do something or interact with the horse in a certain way. And they'll try things. It may work, it may not work, and it doesn't work. They get frustrated. By focusing on that thing, whatever that is, it's going to start to bring up the core of what is really the issue. And it happens sometimes very quickly. So when they set their intention to go into the arena to do whatever, they'll set their intention like, I just want to play and I just want to have fun. And maybe their interaction with the horse is very stiff and there's very, and then it gives me the opportunity to say, what does fun look like for you? Tell me about that. How does it feel in your body? Because if they're super rigid and they're just marching around, are you feeling fun? Right. How does fun feel to you? What does that look like? And when the other thing about the horse is it gets people back in their body. It gets them out of their head and into their body because they're physically moving around. They're physically interacting with the horse. And if they're up in their head and they're not grounded, the horse is going to pick up on that. Right. Once again, the incongruence.
Not as whole. That leads me to ask a question. Midlife women seeking you out for coaching, what are the biggest challenges that they are having? Midlife women, what are the biggest challenges they are having that they would want to work with a life coach? I'm curious. I mean, I'm in midlife as well, so I have my own challenges.
Why don't you tell me what yours are?
Yeah. And to work specifically with you in that way.
Well, it can be anything. I mean, women can be going through, maybe they're going through an empty nest situation where their kids have all moved out. It could be a career change. It could just be, I don't know who I am anymore. Their identity has changed or shifted as a corporate CEO or whatever it is. Something has shifted in their life, or they're just plain stuck. They just don't know how to get to a different place. They know that, and they feel that they want to get to a different place, but because we all get very comfortable. We all have our little comfort zones. We all have our little containers in which we operate and, all of our habitual behaviors and everything. To get out of that can be a real challenge for some people. And it may be just, maybe they've been doing something for so long. It can be fear, and fear will encompass a lot of things in midlife. It would be, it can be anything from, I don't want to look silly to do something new. I'm afraid, like it all comes back to like what other people think of us. It really does. The beauty about doing things and exploring new things with a horse is that horses don't judge you. They don't have that ability. They don't care. They don't see that you're wearing, $5,000 cowboy boots to come and work with the horse. They don't care, right? They don't care what kind of car you drove up in. They don't care what you're wearing. They don't care what you look like. They don't care. None of that. They don't understand. That's not their thing. So it takes that judgment out of the equation, and it allows people to take a deep breath, be grounded, and have some of those, those rigid thoughts and those rigid, facades that they've been holding on to, and those identities, they can kind of melt away.
So for a midlife woman that is struggling with identity, let's say she is empty nest, and maybe stagnant in her career or no career, what type of advice would you give? Like, where should they start to find themselves again in midlife?
Well, whether it's with a horse or not.
Right.
I like to tell people to start exercising the curiosity muscle, which is something that a lot of us dropped off. Well, not me, but a lot of people, don't be curious about that. Just do this thing, do the prescribed things, be the whatever. But start to be curious and start to be aware of your curiosity. So I'd say build awareness and build curiosity. When you are sitting there, whether you're at your desk, at your office, at a job that you hate, or whether you're sitting in an empty home because your kids have gone off to college, sit quietly with, a cup of tea or coffee or whatever, and just be quiet or nothing at all. Sit out in your backyard, go for a walk in nature. What if you, without your phone, without any technology, what are the things that start to bubble up? Because they will. When you get quiet, you start to hear things inside and out.
That's true.
And that's the only way. You have to get quiet. And that, I think, is the hardest thing for anyone, and especially women of a certain age, to do, because then when things start to bubble up, also the other thing, remember the little angel and the little devil sitting on your shoulder, right? Well, when the things start to bubble up and you might get excited about, that's, that I've always wanted to learn to, do the hula hoop, or I've always wanted to learn belly dancing, always wanted to take a painting class. Who swoops in immediately?
Right. Actually,
you're too old. You're too this. You can't do that now, right? Your internal judgment. And then it comes out to be like, well, what are people going to think if all of a sudden I want to take a belly dancing class?
So
who cares?
What is the, how does one overcome the devil on one's shoulder to actually take what's bubbling up and turn it into action?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's not easy. It's little baby steps. And you just have to start. If you start becoming curious about something, I think the one thing I like to do is like the doubt monster or the whatever you want to call it, give it a name. Make it a creature, a funny creature, like on, what was it? Monsters, Inc. or something like that, like Sully, make it something that like, Sully, I hear you. All right, good. Can you please just sit over there for a little bit, make it fun, make it playful. That's the other thing that I really do think, humor and playfulness and just, that kind of energy can really push a lot of doubt and all of that stuff away. Not immediately. So you have to start really small. If you are curious about something, the easiest way to get information on it is Google it, right? Google it and just say, oh, hey, there's a belly dancing class like in my hometown, and it's for women over 50. That's perfect. I'm going to go try that because guess what? Our bellies are different now. And
so I'm with
I don't want to be
I really do believe what you're saying, and I'm with you there about the curiosity. And Leslie Ann and I are similar in this way. I was curious about the camera. It came from kind of a dark place. I had a child that was sick and so forth. And I wanted to learn how to do that to capture certain things. You did the same. And it started with that curiosity and the hobby that I always wanted to do. Then it went to the travel and learning about cultures and taking pictures of other people and getting to know that piece. And then it led to us wanting to do group travel and opening up that experience for other women, which led to a podcast. So the baby steps, I mean, you've been there. Yeah. Tell us a little bit. I know you started off with corporate America, right? And then real estate.
Not initially.
So tell us. I'm curious because I think your curiosity actually sparked a lot of things for you throughout your life.
It did. And so, a lot of it was, trial and error. I threw a lot of spaghetti at the wall, I'll tell you. And, I was interested in art as a kid, so I would draw and paint and all of those things. And the other thing, aside from struggling with my mom's, issues, I also kind of just never really felt like I fit in. And it wasn't until I was sort of in as teenager-ish, I always wondered, but I realized that I was gay. And that was then another thing that I had to do, right? I came out to my mom, which this is like a side story. Apparently, it's not going to answer your question, but it's a little bit, there's something there. Hang in. I came out to my mom. She's like, oh, well, I've had this, behind the scenes relationship. I'm like, I know, Mom, that's okay. So my coming out thing was not a big deal, but now I had to try, and not only did I not fit in my regular life, now I had to try and fit into another place that I didn't know anything about, right? So once again, curious, what are you going to do when you try these things? So back to your question, I found myself in a lot of uncomfortable places and points in my life where I really did just have to say, okay, I have to put myself out there. I'm curious about this, but I'm going to have to put myself out there. And however it lands, it lands. I felt insecure, very much so. I'll be honest with you. I didn't feel like I fit in. I mean, only, in the past, probably 10 years of, through a lot of growth and spiritual growth, emotional growth, and everything like that, do I feel like I'm at a place in my life where I feel like I'm comfortable. I fit in. I don't have to fit in. It's not about fitting in. It's about belonging, finding the people that you resonate with. So in order to pivot, I mean, I just tried things. I would be interested in something and I would go learn about it, or I would just dive right in. Somebody gave me a flying lesson one year for my birthday. And then of course I had to go get my pilot's license and then buy a plane. And, I mean, really? Not everybody is, as crazy as I am. But when I go in, I go all in. Now, do I feel like I have to go all in for the rest of my life? No, absolutely not. Things are in phases. Right. I did roller derby for a phase. I loved roller derby as a kid. When I was a kid, I would be glued to the television watching the women, the Bay City Bombers and all of that when I was a kid. And then later, I'm doing a landscaping project at my house, and my landscaper plays roller derby, and I'm like, cool. So of course I went. I started being a referee for roller derby. Okay, you know what I mean? Like I said, right. It's just, I love learning things. And I think that people forget how fun it is to be a beginner. I think it scares the heck out of people. People don't like to be a beginner. But I think, like you said, with the photography, you're curious about the camera. Okay, you take a class, you do whatever. Yeah. I try and then, I mean, a lot of this stuff just got pushed away from us when you're supposed to follow a certain path. I never did. I clearly never did. But I didn't go to college immediately. I quit high school twice, as a matter of fact. So my story is not typical, but it does give me the, to tell people that it's okay to reinvent yourself over and over and over again, as many times as you want. It's your story.
When we're younger, I think when we take on a task or a skill, we are so honed into the perfectionism of that. And I think you have to let go of it. Like, yeah. I am not a perfect photographer. I'm not a perfect podcast co-host. But when you let go of that and just be curious for the sake of curious and doing the best that you can, or not the best you can, just enjoying it for what it is. Yeah. Is so important. But I think one of the barriers are people actually think that they need to take on something they're going to be good at. They don't have to. They just have to have fun at it. And I think the more we can give that story to women, because we tell our kids that, we tell our siblings that, go for it. Don't worry about it. You don't have to be perfect. Just do it. And yet we don't tell ourselves that.
We tell our friends that.
Yes.
Just do it. Just do it. Right?
Yeah.
Just go out there. Just have fun. But we're not doing it. No.
Do you have any magic words? I like that you used magic earlier, that you can use or speak with women about that kind of makes them take those steps? Is it getting rid of barrier? What are the barriers for them? I'm just curious. What would you tell them?
The barriers can be many.
Yeah.
Everyone is going to have their own barriers, and some may be from childhood. There may be layers and layers that they need to peel back, but I would just say to get quiet. Try and get quiet. It's hard in the world that we live in today to get quiet and to turn off all of that external noise and all of the, chaos that's out there. But trying to find equanimity is really the key. And that's like one of my favorite things is, finding the calm amid the chaos. Get back into your body. Do something that makes you feel good, whatever that is. And here's the other thing. It's not selfish to say no.
Mm-hmm.
It's not selfish to do something for yourself. It will, like I always joke that, there's a reason they tell you to put your oxygen mask on first, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to be there for someone else. Right. So if your cup is empty, if you just, get a coach, right? Get an accountability partner. Somebody that, you can talk to that you don't feel will judge you. So like I said, it doesn't have to be a coach, but if you do need that extra help, then get in touch with somebody. But just start to be quiet and curious and do like one little thing that is different than your normal routine every day. Do one different thing. It could be drive a different way home from work or go to a different grocery store or whatever it is. Do one thing different and notice what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Not what you're, just also what you're seeing and take note of things. Sometimes I go for walks around my neighborhood and I'll go a different way or whatever, or I'll go the same way and try and find like 5 things that I haven't noticed before.
That's a great exercise.
Yeah, just do something different. Notice something new and write it down. Be like, oh, I never saw that there before. That's pretty cool. Or I never heard that before. And when I do my retreats or when I do my individual coaching, sometimes if I will have people go through what I call the 5 senses meditation, where we, as a group or individually, 5 things that you see, 4 things that you hear, 3 things that you smell, 2 things that, you feel, 1 thing that you taste. And it really does get you back in your body. And I think that is the biggest thing that people can do, women can do. I say people because this affects everyone, but I do work with women in their midlife. But just start small.
What do you think of the value of, I think getting quiet is great advice. Let things bubble up, get to know yourself. But I also think there's a benefit, and I'm curious what you think, to also talking, right? Because one of the things that makes curiosity about something sort of a reality in your own life is knowing that you can do it. And I find sometimes, like, if you talk about something you're interested in, the universe kind of brings it back to you.
Mm-hmm.
You talk to someone and say, for example, I'm learning Mahjong. And I mentioned it yesterday to someone at my pickleball group who said, oh, I have a regular Mahjong group. And if you're interested, you can join and you can come every week. And I think when you put things out in the universe, it sort of, it kind of forces you to sort of show up or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious what you think about that.
Yeah, that's true. I think what you're, whether you talk about it with someone else, like I was saying, like you could get an accountability partner, or what you're doing is you're making it real. Writing it down is another way. If you're not quite ready to put it out there in words, maybe write things down and write them, as if, right? As if they're already happening. And once you do put things out into the universe, I don't know how woo-woo anybody wants to get here, but the universe is always listening, right? And it's all about your mindset. If you think that this is going to happen, then it will. That's a little bit of a simplification because you do have to take some actions there as well. But if you're acting as if, then things will start to fall in place. Yeah. And whether you're talking about it with friends, and some people maybe talk about it with a stranger, I don't know, talk about it with the barista. Hey,
this is good advice. Yeah. In wrapping up, Sue, this is great advice. I do believe the universe has its own wisdom for sure. Where can people find you? You have information online as well about yourself, about your retreats, coaching, and your equine therapy. Can you just tell listeners, we'll put it on our website as well, where they can find you?
Yeah, my website is a great resource, willoughbycoaching.com. And it's my last name, and Willoughby Coaching. And that will be in the show notes because it's kind of a long name. I'm also on Instagram, Sue_Willoughby. And I advise you, or not advise you, I encourage you to, if you're curious, get on my mailing list because I have a really good newsletter that I'm starting to produce weekly that has a lot of midlife tips. Also listen to my podcast called Midlife Strategies for Badass Women. So,
I love that. Way to go, Sue.
Awesome.
That's wonderful. Thank you for joining us. We've so appreciated it. And I will follow up with you as well, but you gave me some nuggets.
Oh, thank you. Well, it was a pleasure talking with both of you today. I really appreciate you having me on your show.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.